Hi, everyone. My name is Miranda.
And I'm Nicole Watson.
And we did our activity analysis on vacuuming. So we thought we'd share our presentation with you over this Zoom presentation. So starting with the learning objectives for our activity analysis, these are objectives that are based on Bloom's taxonomy, which we learned about in 551. So the objectives Nicole and I came up with is demonstrating the ability to follow the major action steps of vacuuming highlighted in this presentation, identifying the potential safety risks of vacuuming for clients with specific disabilities and or health conditions, and then defining the significance of vacuuming as it relates to activities of daily living, and defining the cultural significance and or societal expectations of vacuuming. I thought it'd be fun to share some early history of vacuuming, kind of where it came from. So the earliest models were actually manual sweepers, first introduced in the 1860s. However, they weren't really popular until the turn of the century, and they weren't mass produced. Actually, probably the vacuum that we know today was first designed by English engineer Hubert Cecil Booth. He invented the first motorized vacuum in 1901. And probably a name that you'll recognize is Hoover's. William H. Hoover founded the Hoover Company in 1920, producing the first domestic vacuum cleaners during the post-World War I economic boom. However, household vacuum cleaners were not widely used by the American public until after World War II, when they were made available to middle-class families and were mass-produced. The first cordless vacuums were developed by probably another name you recognize as James Dyson in 1974. And then today, there are numerous models of vacuum cleaners that are available on the market to suit a variety of needs. I thought it'd be fun to throw in some pictures for you of some of those older vacuum cleaner models. So on the far left, you'll see that top left is a picture of vacuum cleaner attachments from a Hoover vacuum model from the 1930s. Below that, in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a vacuum model also by Hoover from 1919. And then in the middle, obviously, some more modern models of a vacuum cleaner. We have a standard handheld vacuum cleaner, a standard cordless stick vacuum, and then the robotic vacuums. I believe it's iRobot by Roomba. And then on the far side, I thought it'd be fun to kind of throw in there an old advertisement from the 1950s of advertising a Eureka vacuum. And I put this in here, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, kind of that cultural significance, even though this is not relevant today, kind of the cultural significance of women in the household and kind of their role as a homemaker, and kind of those expectations and gender roles at that time that really did influence this occupation at that point in time. This one is pretty straightforward. The equipments and materials needed for vacuuming. You'll need, obviously, a vacuum cleaner attachment. So vacuums typically come with vacuum cleaner attachments that help you clean. For instance, for harder to reach places, you might have a crevice tool to reach behind furniture or appliances, even like an upholstery tool that will help you clean furniture. And then obviously you need a source of electricity, so you'll need access to an electrical outlet. The space, setting, and time. So vacuuming occurs in a built environment, typically the home, but it's really any space indoors that needs to be vacuumed or cleaned. There is no set or specific size requirement, but typically a space does have to be large enough to accommodate a vacuum cleaner, the cord, and the individual vacuuming. Vacuumings accommodate for different types of flooring and can clean atypical surfaces like furniture. They do have a setting. Most standard vacuums have a setting where you can adjust the height of the vacuum to accommodate for the floor type. For instance, hardwood floor versus carpeting. There is no specific time frame, but generally vacuuming occurs during the day. It's not really acceptable to vacuum during the nighttime hours when people are trying to get some sleep due to the noise. It's recommended to vacuum at least once a week with increased frequency depending on, your household routine, personal preference, or the amount of dirt, dust, or debris that does collect. And then areas of the home, obviously, with the most foot traffic. So this might be areas that are right outside or immediately coming in from outside. So you have people coming in with their dirty shoes, bringing in debris, dirt, and other allergens in from the outside. It gets tracked on the floor, so you might have to clean it more often. And the same with any homes with pets like cats or dogs, you'll have pet hair that needs to be vacuumed up. And then this one it requires skills, capabilities, and abilities. So these are just some of the skills, capacities, and abilities that we identified in our paper as well for 551. For motor, we have coordinates, moves, walks, endures, paces, and handles. And you can always see more of this from the OTPF4. Sensory functions, we have obviously visual functions, so the ability to clear the workspace of clutter to ensure safety, gather necessary equipment, and obviously just being able to see where you're vacuuming. Touch functions, the ability to grab the vacuum, change that setting, again, that I talked about based on the floor surface, grabbing items off the floor, even feeling for different types of textures or materials on maybe your furniture. Hearing functions is the ability to differentiate between different sounds, and kind of knowing where kind of what is a normal sounding vacuum. So kind of paying attention to what maybe isn't normal. So that might indicate some maintenance problems or some maintenance issues that should be addressed. Visual perceptual, we have searches, locates, gathers, restore, notices, responds, and adjusts. Cognitive, we have chooses, sequence, and terminates. Social and emotional, approaches / starts, gesticulates, looks, regulates, and expresses concern. And then communication, inquires, matches language, accommodates, and benefits. And then the major action steps we have that Nicole and I identified. We have retrieve the vacuum cleaner from the closet, unwind the electric cord, plug cord into the wall outlet, adjust the vacuum cleaner setting or height to accommodate for floor type, turn on the vacuum cleaner, push the vacuum cleaner back and forth, maneuver the vacuum cleaner on floor until entire space is cleaned, turn off the vacuum cleaner, unplug cord from wall outlet, wind cord on vacuum cleaner, and return the vacuum to the closet.
So social context and cultural significance of vacuuming. Vacuuming removes dirt, dust, debris, and pet hair that can cause allergy symptoms. A societal expectation is to have a clean, presentable home. Cleanliness is viewed as desirable and necessary for home maintenance and health. Not to mention, it can show your social status. A clean home provides a space to live, work, and entertain. Since the home is aesthetically pleasing, the space encourages you to have company and guests over to socialize. Individuals are intrinsically motivated to want a clean space and to keep their personal belongings clean. From a young age, children are taught to clean up after themselves, which carries over into adulthood. This means some individuals are more particular about cleaning than others. It just depends on how important you deem cleaning to be. Lastly, historically, women have always been the dominant house caretaker. They were the ones that stayed home to maintain the house while the husbands worked. Today, most families are respectful of each other, whether one member still maintains the household or they both maintain the household and work, as long as it works for the household. So some safety precautions are hazards that include tripping over vacuum cords or running them over, which can cause the cord to break down. To avoid tripping, it's recommended to hold part of the cord with your non-dominant hand while using the vacuum. If outlet covers are removed to vacuum, make sure the outlet covers are replaced afterwards. This helps prevent small children from accessing the outlet. Sharp objects on the floor could cause damage to the vacuum if they are sucked up. Additionally, the individual vacuuming will want to wear shoes that prevent stepping on these sharp objects. And then just make sure to service the vacuum periodically to ensure optimal function. This includes emptying out the bag, cleaning the filter, and replacing broken parts. And if you have pets or children who don't like the loud noise, having them in a different room could prevent discomfort toward them. So applying this to the OT theory, we chose the model of human occupation, also known as MOHO. This can be applied to vacuuming due to the interactions the individual experiences. This model specifically focuses on the engagement in occupations from interactions between personal variables and the environment. Personal variables can be broken down into volition, habituation, and performance capacity. Volition refers to the person's power to choose their values and their personal interests in vacuuming. Their power to choose allows them to decide that vacuuming is important for them to participate in. They decide they want to spend their time on this task as it takes priority in their life. Values surround vacuuming, such as maintaining a clean household. A clean home allows for an inviting place to distress after the day. Some individuals really value a clean home, while others don't have a big preference. Also, some people are more interested in having a clean home, thus they will want to vacuum more. Habituation refers to how often an individual performs this task. They may have a strict schedule and vacuum every week or decide to vacuum once a month. This routine can change based on what is happening in their life. Say a mess was made in the living room, they can quickly grab the vacuum and spot check the area. Or they may have family coming over and they want their house to be nice. And performance capacity refers to the subjective and objective components of the individual's physical and mental abilities. So for example, motor control is needed to push and pull the vacuum across the floor, while memory is important when remembering the steps to vacuuming. And the environment can be broken down into the physical and social aspects of the occupation. The physical environment includes the structures, objects, and materials needed for this task. The social aspect includes the social and cultural norms and societal support. This task is generally performed alone, but the person vacuuming has to be aware of others who may be present in the room and communicate with them in an appropriate manner. And the target for change is directed at the client's engagement and participation. So when looking at physical or mobility limitations, we can use remediation techniques to restore functional performance. This includes upper extremity range of motion exercises that target the dominant hand and strengthening exercises of the dominant hand to regain strength to push and pull the vacuum. We can use compensation techniques. This includes using a grabber tool to pick up and move items off the floor that are in the way of the vacuum. And this includes using a different vacuum cleaner model, such as a lightweight sweeper or robotic vacuum, to make the task more manageable. We can modify and adapt the activity needs. Instead of standing while vacuuming, we can vacuum from a seated or kneeling position. We can also take breaks as needed and vacuum for a specified amount of time or vacuum one room at a time. So for a heart attack and stroke, most individuals are struggling with activity endurance. So similar to physical and mobility limitations, vacuuming for a specified amount of time or vacuuming one room a day, taking breaks when feeling fatigued, vacuuming from a seated or kneeling position, using a lightweight vacuum, and doing range of motion and strengthening exercises help individuals still perform this task. And then individuals with visual impairments can use furniture as landmarks or boundaries to guide movement, which is known as proprioception. For instance, you can start vacuuming at one wall and move outward until you reach another wall. They do this by feeling for the built structures around them, like furniture, while vacuuming so they know their orientation in space. In order to make sure you vacuum everything, you can overlap your strokes by going back through to where you started vacuuming. And a cordless vacuum reduces the risk of tripping. Individuals with cognitive limitations may struggle with memory and sequencing. So task segmentation allows for learning the next step by only introducing one major action step at a time. So breaking down the steps, and once one step is accomplished, working towards the next step. Visual aids such as photos of the major action steps in sequential order is good for task sequencing and remembering what comes next. And you could also have the individual mark off each action as it's completed. When applying this to children who are just learning to vacuum should start out with a lightweight vacuum so it's more manageable for a child to move around. In order to show that the area needs to be cleaned, deliberately placing high contrast debris like colored paper on the floor to show that the floor is dirty. This will show the children because they can actually see items on the floor. And you could also apply bright colored tape to part of the floor to show children where and what to vacuum. For example, they could vacuum everything to the left of the tape or tape a box, and they could vacuum everything inside of the box. And these are our references. Thank you for watching.